Hello, viewers. Tonight I'm going to read a small collection of poems, and I'm also going to talk a bit about my poetry club that starts this week. This booklet here I made about a year ago, and it's called Standing at the Doors of the Temple. I forgot I made it actually, and I just found it the other day, which is pretty cool because it's more stuff I can add to my big book, and I've totally forgot about the poems, so it's kind of interesting to go back and read stuff that you kind of forgot about. So the first one's called Recoil. My feet can feel the rigid earth, been dangling there all along. I've been somewhere else long enough to learn. I think I'll pick up where I left off, years ago, before I was distracted by relief that was not my own. To start a life from the dead skin of a life, turn the regret into compost, and dig your green thumbs in. My mind used to arrest my words. The learner, that is, has given the floor to other organs. I hope it won't be long. Enough time has passed. I want to share. I want to care externally. This one's called Expecting. The curtains parted, sunrise abrupt, you sprain the light. Cannot walk. And beg to your mind for another. Cutting keys to break inside locks. Bruise your knuckles swatting solutions. Flies buzzing at the same window live and die, identically waiting for the glass to move. A lot of these were written upon my knowing that it was my final little bit of time living in Peterborough, and it was a time of change. This one's called Myth and Knowing. Forming a bowl at the end of my outstretched limbs, this drought cracks the skin. I am only asking, are you awake? I lean towards you. The wind fights me, you blow away. My eyes open, blink apart the dream. Lone wolf patrolling his shadow's shape. This is probably one of the bigger booklets I made. It feels really thick. Of course, this is the hard copy, so there's extra paper there, but I'm pretty sure there's a lot of poems here. This one's called Bastion. There are desolate regions between my knuckles, in the shadowy craters of my eyes, and the underground rivers of my thoughts carve veins beneath them. Bolted to the bones that I cannot leave, I express a need for liberation, but I have no accomplice to boost me over the barricade that is delusion. A grand patience, acceptance, is required to perform the vigil of living a sturdy life, opposed daily by the reactions of others. At the coast where your body meets the liquid mass of foaming skin, you are the retaining wall. This one's called Maybe. Got a recipe for better memories. I'm gonna fill my plate. I might not get through it all, so we can share the sum. Swallow before it's cold. If a long winter comes, we can hunt or grow to make it. I see it's the crumbs that keep you living. I believe what happens wasn't meant to. I'm saying it's still for keeps. This is called Possibilities, Questioning, and Wonder. And I remember the title of this poem, I think, was kind of lent to me by a friend, or inspired by something that she said. Caught in direct beams of light, the shadow dives inward, spilling the ink over the territory of the soul. I put on my foil traveling hat, full to the brim with questions, rejecting spectrums that burn the inner eye. Picking up signals of long-lost dissonant waves, entering these temples to release my arguing mind. The stars act innocently. Wanderer, beware their directions. Antics unpunished by Orion's belt. Aching in the sky where they glide, my dependency is their prize, a scuffle amongst intentions. For what facts we hold our lies in a different light. Corneal straws sucking until they're blue will do anything to be one eye less blind. Excuse me. This one's called Gust. It's only a matter of time, blowing away, hairs bristling on my neck. Patterns kick in that were simplified. Their weaves of paisley made parallel, churn in the fabric of waking thoughts, and revert. Thump, bump, bump. Pulse reviving, the body follows the leader's march. Here we go. Cut the cord that keeps you bound, and go wherever you miss. Lay low. How will you ever know? A someone or something or somewhere you knew won't do. It's only a matter of time, and they'll blow to you. This one's called First Words. I close my eyes, wake up in the distance. This plan excludes a hushing of whispers. The method I use will bring crashing silence. In one night I found out what it's like, the absence of warmth and what it hosts. What it means is we're visibly parting. In the event that our magnets are mutual, mark this down before we've spoken. Only healthy under halogen lamps, mixed with the tug of running cramps, the grit that collects in your fingernails, digging into their god for traction. This is the road. You're seeing the taillights. This plan excludes a minimum mileage. The method I use is combustible chances. What it means is, it won't be permanent. In one night I found some kindling for the quiet. I think that's one of my favorites of this little collection. I like how it sounds. This next one's called Tumbling. It is my home. Did I ever take it for granted? Weeks remaining, and they are cramping my ability to be at peace. Am I ready for these changes? Of the smiles of my friends and the music that fills the small rooms where I feel welcome, I recall what I must let go of. Am I letting doubt swallow me? Do I feel right about this? I'm honestly not sure. The argument is that I am long overdue for something productive. I will be on my own, and I hope I am ready for those changes. That's very obviously about moving. Moving from a place where you know everybody to a place where you know nobody. Moving from a place where you have plenty of customs to a place where you have to make new customs. It was definitely scary at first, but I think it's just a great thing when you can let go of things that become such a strong part of your identity, to detach yourself from them and kind of remember who you are underneath all of that. This is called where one leaves off. The mute tones of morning are muscle on the bone, and with this strength, what are the first things we reach for? At the same time pushing away the things we find too ill to bring along. We feel the steps our feet took yesterday, review the footage that raced through our selective vision, digging through the rummage for the proper reflection. This is called the scale. Excuse me. I tend to my thoughts, rarely my heart. Speak of abstract needs before keeping alive. So I will claim this life in an effort to feel something old. Something that has slept since I locked it away, swallowed the key. In my bowels it sat burning a hole. I want to feel the air like it felt me, and the earth won't hurt when I sleep in its cradle of water resting underneath. This one is called Harvest Moon. Choices have always come to me. I pick them from the branches, weighed lowest to the ground with fruit. I have taken up the shovel. Wood warms my hands. I drive in a hole, soon the splinters will show their worth. Dropping seeds inside, one day soon I'll find new life puncturing the dirt, and the rotten cores of bad apples, I'll leave them all behind. And while I wait for spring, remembering what I found last fall, my dreams are there to see some deaf to heartfelt calls. I'm gonna read the last stanza again, because I think I kind of got it wrong. And while I wait for spring, remembering what I found last fall, my dreams are there to see some deaf to heartfelt calls. This one's called Not Built to Weather. With all that I have learned, I have no weight in this world. You inhabit my thoughts. If everything could be right, the wind would push from behind. I am shaking knees, implosion of strength, like a building blown to the ground. I try to be in charge, but march to the beat of my witless heart. No amount of water can rinse away the hourglass sand chafing my soul. Learn all you can to have some weight in this world. This one's called Trustfall. The aperture widens to take what the shadows taunt it for needing. The wax on the lens blurs you and preserves the outside. Drop the speed to a scenic pace. Halt to rethink myths you sew as patches on your knapsack filled with bricks and stones. Keep up your travels, and a dawn will set upon your pain. This one's called The Shake. In the coming times, rotation of this place will test balance. What is dear to us could fall through cracks, the lips of chasms. Bring with you some rope and a long pole. Find the center. Every movement of your feet will test how you've practiced grace. I know what I can do to get through it. I know what I need to do to get over it. Resort to my weakness, or summon my strength. One is worth keeping, the rest will keep you needing. In the coming times, the ground will quake with rotation. I think we're about halfway through this book. It's quite a bit longer than a lot of my other ones. And I think I like these a little more than I thought I would. This one's called Point A. Looks like it's working. Feels like I'm moving on, in fact, for the first time. Bubbles rise from the water where I drowned, and I float up to the liquid horizon. The current and I agree. We will both go the same way. What life we will find, I sure hope it's willing to accept my adaptation to its home. I'll put down my things, set wood to a fire, wood from the raft that bore me there. My moon to howl to, my stars to chart, a new road to stamp in my prints. I'll keep your name, and I'll feel your heart from a distance, pure as the embers giving me light. This one's called Window of Opportunity. I helped build these prisons, my wings cuffed lightless behind my back. So if I built them, I must know where to find the cracks, where breezes come gasping in. When I feel fine, close my eyes, spread my arms again, it's gone. It's gone. Walls and ceilings, chains and doors, it's gone. Now if I can just wake up in the yard. I own a locket. Its picture is the change I feel the possibility for, and this vision is clouds rolling over the land, rain settling the dust from pockmarks I slip in. It's gone. It's gone. Depth and rubble, sand and soot, it's gone. Now if I can just wake up in the yard. I remember I went to a poetry reading just before I left Peterborough, and this is a lot of what I read. And that one was about anxiety. Just the anxiety you get, when big things are about to happen. But you have to wait for those things to happen, so you just live with the anxiety, even though you don't want to. This one's called Smelling Salts. The woods are losing their light. I packed some matches, some tipped with luck and some sorrow. Both can set the brush on fire. Which do I trust? I want to make it out alive. Clear the path in one piece, inside and out. Signpost directions. I do believe them, even without them. 1. The love is supposed to be inside. 2. No one is alone. Well, I'm tired of the rules. I don't believe this poem, nor my own thoughts. I've laid down my guard, dug out my heart like a weasel, stealing babies from a burrow, and held it out. Drying in the wind, where I don't believe it. I believe I am capable of making rules for myself, even if they're rules I don't believe in. And that heart will beat in uninhabitable worlds. This one's called Compulsion. Used to being hip deep, wade to an exit from the shallow end, breathing beneath water, sink thoughts that pop my bubble, see the sun below the surface, reaching with its long arms. A reel of flashbacks succeed in reminding me fewer reasons to be afraid, even if they're monsters. Drag them out from where they hide. Make something of them. Running with splinters, too impressed to feel the pinch. Echoes from my old worlds whoosh past me like fast cars. Regrets I inventory are to-dos for the future. That's what time is for, not for counting. You might notice my voice cracked there. I am like 30 years old and my voice still cracks. I'm pretty sure it always will. That's fine. This one's called Time in the Clouds with No Sky. All in time, these nights get brighter with the rise of broken dawns. Butterfly migrates to its old cocoon, strapped to a twig where none climb. Inside it takes flight, introversion of metamorphic life, escaping the confines of light. And I write fictions that conspire to overthrow what is, and swear off the noises that you use to wake me. This one's called Breath Untangle. The hour hand, the walking plank, bend while you're praying. You can get along without butterflies feasting on your nerves. Climb the wall, slow and steady, rise above the noises that pound your head. The end could be a long way. To maintain, prepare for the day where what you are now will rearrange. Follow my map to where I buried the bones I deemed useless. Plug them into their old joints and feel the machine open its eyes from manual slumber. It was this way. I need the opposite. I was this way when I was not on top of it. Key to ignition, lights on, you'll see me reach the on-ramp. Count down the distance. The end could be a long way. This one's called Prosthetic Answers. It is normal to fret upon the brittle body of an icicle. Feels like bones that weave together well-being. Every inch of travel clocked on your feet kicks grains from the hourglass. You'll soon be with your needs. And the bristles of my nerves eject like porcupine defenses, but hang in me. I can taste the sweet water running from the foot of the mountain of flowers, and it's doing good. Some winds come every now and then, that take all their heads and swarm the sky with petals. Do try to see it lacks permanence. Let it take its time. This one's called From the Sternum. Was my last step a step from a cliff? Will my next move catch speed on the wind? From the ground I use a retry. Fistfuls of sweat and grime had to clench what I could to prevent lift. From the inside I break myself, the battle that picks no side from the crown I need to gain control of this kingdom that writhes. Was my last step the step from a cliff? Will my next move catch speed on the wind? The blind dreams where I rub my eyes enacts what disappears in life. The hope I have seen never dies, even when my self-talk tells infinite lies. This one's called How Will I Pretend? Beneath each breath, I lose control. Thoughts make a break before the windows close. Your laughter seems so far away. The air is thick, and gradually I learn to live here, under a chest full of pressure. I gain a step when I learn from your wisdom, stand ground each time I stare into your prisms, under a chest full of pressure. Touching my tongue to the back of my throat, my teeth are like little stones in dry earth. The gray area off limits, I see you and I'm drowning in yesterday's rain. When the sun cooks the damp highways between us, raising fog, I'll pretend to see you in it, under a chest full of pressure. Speaking of my mouth being dry, this is a lot of talking. This one's called Collect. Catching the echoes of my stranded thoughts in jars, there is no preservation in this hobby. There are shelves and shelves and shelves. I'd rather listen to you respond and wonder about your thoughts. Watch them beat off the sides of the glass, trying to correct their path to make sense of their limits. Trying to be more, trying to be clear, a slow way to breathe, a clean burning fuel. And this is one that's named after the title of the book, or vice versa, Standing at the Doors of the Temple. Where it scrapes the sky, you offer your inferiority. Plant your hands in the garden, joining as part of the whole. Intake the vitamins. Your iris opens up. A wormhole falls out, beginning to see more than it can sense. By the time it travels to the brain, you've lived life to death, cutting paper into circles of people, to the wind, to the wind. They land and blanket the steps like petals, variations of the possible you. Being there was like being stretched over every acre of nothingness which avoided occurring, and it felt like a beginning standing still. The door swings. And we're at the last one. This is Standing at the Doors of the Temple, Part 2. And in brackets it says, I have been inside. When these doors swing, it's the same room. Try to lock myself out from inside. Barricade only my eyes, howling up with the sunrise, coloring this stained glass shadow. Consume my past, feed me to myself so I can be strong. Keep moving. A head on straight but tilted shoulders. This is a waste of matches I'm throwing. Escape the smoldering forest. Become downwind of the fumes when searching for breaths that don't poison. I think I know where this is going. Distant chances and possibly knowing where I stand. Press my palms on solid ground to pull my feet out of the sand. One level closer to leaving shame like shed skin, naturally discarded. And that's that one. I actually enjoyed reading that a lot. It was interesting for me. So, as I mentioned, I was going to talk about my poetry club. I'm just going to go over what I kind of have as my agenda. A few videos back, I sort of had this quote that went like this. Focus on what poetry can be. Forget what poetry has been. And this isn't to say like disregard everything. I just mean in the sense of if there was no history of poetry and you knew what poetry was, or you were, the first man on the moon, so to speak, what would you write? How would you write? And I kind of want that to be the foundation of this group. So I have the group split up so far into discussions, practice, and a take-home challenge, which kind of happens outside the group. So for the first week, these are the discussions I kind of want to do. For one thing, since everyone will be new to each other, I want to talk about personal writing stories. And by that I mean your history with writing. And then I want to talk about writing intentions. And that can kind of go two ways. Like, what do you plan to get from writing? And what do you plan to do with writing? I also want to talk about influences and influence awareness. Influence awareness, I think, is one of the most important ones. For example, at least with my poetic history, there were times where I may not have been as aware of why I was writing what I was writing, or who or what was imposing on my voice. I think it's good to be aware of those things. Some goals I have for the club are to perhaps produce a quarterly chapbook. I think that'd be a cool idea. Also, having some kind of performance here and there would be great. And we can also talk about other things that we'd like to produce as a group. And then, of course, getting connected. I want to have a YouTube channel, and maybe we can do readings like that and feature different poets. Of course, there's a Facebook group, just little things like that. For the practice for the first week, and I think I want to do this most of the weeks, is have an automatic writing session. Not too long, but not too short. We have a 2-hour block available to us. I don't think I'm ever going to be there for 2 hours myself, so maybe 15 minutes out of an hour. We'll test, how that goes and see how people like it. And I don't want to be, too much of a rigid leader here, so I'm thinking, I'll suggest this agenda to people, see what they think, if this is what they expected. And I also want to ask people what their expectations for this club were, so that if they've got some good ideas that I didn't even see, we should definitely do them. And for a take-home challenge, I've just got a few kind of like suggested examples of what those could be. One is writing without self-reference. I find that's really hard for myself. It always comes back to me, and I have trouble just being external. Rhythmic focus, so when you're writing, focusing on rhythm. Performance focus, so when you're writing, your intention is that it's going to be spoken, so maybe you would speak it first and then write it, or do them both at the same time. There's multiple ways you could do it. And another example would just be a found poem, which also has very few rules around it. The preview for week 2, since we had the take-home challenge the week before, my intention is that we bring those in the next week and share them. But before we can do that, we have to have guidelines for sharing feedback and support, because I don't want people to be scared to show up and share based on, people being harsh or honest. I mean, sometimes your intention is to help, but it can easily be taken the wrong way. So as a group, we need to decide how we're going to provide feedback and support. And it doesn't have to be something that's essential. You can share without receiving feedback. So yeah, those guidelines will be created by the group themselves, not me. I'll be included, but So yeah, practice then will include sharing last week's take-home challenge and another automatic writing session. And I haven't decided what the take-home challenge examples could be for that week. Maybe some of the same ones. We could just rotate different things. People could just do whatever they want, really. I just want to kind of have it be something you're not used to doing. So, my mouth is really dry. Done a lot of talking, so I'm going to stop here because I've got out everything I wanted to say. So if you watch this whole video, wow, thanks. And I'll see you next time.